Welcome back to What Lies in the Dark. I'm your host, Marites, and in this audio interview, we sit down with Ethan, the creator of the Tabi Tabi Podcast, a popular podcast dedicated to Filipino folklore. Throughout this discussion, she shares the inspiration behind her decision to focus on these rich cultural stories, explaining how they reflect the values, history, and beliefs of the Filipino people. Get cozy and tune in as she walks us through her valuable perspective.
To start off with our first question, what inspired you to lean into this kind of content?
Well, because I'm Filipino, and there are a lot of stories that's not necessarily dying, but more like they're not. A lot of young people don't know about these stories anymore because a lot of them are just more used to the stories found online, and the stories that I grew up with are told mostly by like mouth. So it's more like the neighbor shared this story and that, and then it goes on and on. And here nowadays it's rare to find stories like this documented online. So that's what I wanted to do, and mostly because I really like the stories, the what do you call this? The legends that we have here in the Philippines. I grew up with it. My grandma would tell me all about it. Locally first, and then growing up when I started this podcast, 2019, I realized that we have a lot more creatures actually out there. And then I had the fun part about it is that I had to like the word is not deconstruct. I'm sorry, I'm not really a native of English, but more like it challenges the belief that I had before, and I had to strip it all down to like, so before this is how they believe things, and that's how they live their life, but it doesn't normally apply nowadays anyway. So yeah, mostly because of the stories that surround me when I was a kid.
Next question. How do you choose what stories to cover?
I choose which one has the most information, because unfortunately we do have a lot of stories here, a lot of creatures here in the Philippines, but they lack the proper documentation or information. Let's say, for example, Bungisngis, my latest episode. The Bungisngis is a creature that smiles a lot, that has like a permanent grin on its face. And while it really doesn't kill humans, it does kill animals or like eat or steal from humans. And then even though it is a giant, that creature can be easily outwitted. So it's kind of dumb, basically. So, and then that's it. That's almost all the information you have of that creature. It's a giant and blah, blah, blah. So with that, it has like very little information. So if I find out that, maybe this doesn't have a lot, I'll try to research more creatures that have some documentations, or at least people who have encountered it, apparently, according to their stories and whatnot. So yeah, I based it more on how much information they have, and I will work on what I got there. I'll just make sure that I'm able to present it as clear as I can, and as well as give my opinions on it.
I see. We were wondering also, what made you want to tell these stories to other people? Like, other than like the fact that you wanted to share more information and like others were forgetting about it, is there like anything more to it?
No, really. I just really want to make sure that kids these days know about these stories, that they don't forget it. Because once you forget something, it's hard for it to resurface again, or for it to be given value again. So I want the kids nowadays, the young ones nowadays, to appreciate that this is part of our culture as Filipinos. I don't want them to forget that we in a way we sort of lived in fear because of these stories, but it shaped us somehow. Me specifically, it did shape me somehow, because I don't go out during 6 a.m. 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. I don't go out after dark because my mom said a creature will take me. So although I lived in fear, I didn't really, it shaped some part of my life, really. One specific story that I have about not going out 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. is because apparently that is when the creatures are most active. So they would go around.
Similar.
Yeah, so that's why they don't want children to go out because because children can't see it, nor adults. What if you hit them? They get offended and you get cursed. So it's more like it's trying to help them or something.
I was told something similar, but instead of going out at night, it was more like if you throw things outside at night, it would like bring bad omen to the house.
Because there are creatures that, like I said, are active in the evening. We have a thing we call in Bicol specifically. We call them tawong lipod. That means like a person or like a creature that you cannot see, basically. So, I have a story of that actually. Apparently, we hit something. When I was a kid, my brother and I would play outside. It was around 5 p.m. My aunt was calling us already to, hey, come home, we're about to eat. But we were still out. I mean, there was still light. So I was like, maybe 15 minutes, 5 minutes, let's just play. And there was this sort of, it's not abandoned. It's just that the construction on that house was stopped because apparently a construction worker died there. So they were sort of abandoned, but right now it's being lived by some people, whatever. So back then, I was 8 years old. My brother threw something in that house. There was like a little pond there. My brother threw rocks. I told him, don't, because you might hit something. But he didn't listen to me. Eventually, we were home, and the food there was my brother's favorite, the food that was served by my aunt. So, and surprisingly, my aunt says, why aren't you eating? And then my brother started feeling bad. My brother started vomiting, and he was like a high fever. He had a high fever that time, like a few hours, minutes after that encounter, that thing that he did in the abandoned house, basically. And so, it was all of a sudden. It was very abrupt. So my aunt and my grandfather called an albularyo, which is like a healer, a folk healer or something. And so what they did was he got some plates and then candles, and then I can't really say what happened, but he did something with it, and it showed that my brother hit something, and it was pissed. And so we had to offer fruits to that creature or that entity, and then in the morning or like in the evening, my brother was okay. So yeah, I just want them to know that I know that we live in a digital age and everything is modern and everything is fun. But if you go to the rural areas, you still have to respect the culture that's built by the older generations, no matter how ridiculous it is, because it is for you to follow, basically. I want people to know that this happened, also as a cautionary tale, and also just to make sure that youngsters nowadays still respect the woods, the forest, because we're not necessarily the original owners of this land, basically. So yeah, I just want people to know about these stories. Don't let them forget, and for people to respect the culture still.
So you've been talking about your like secondhand experiences with folklore creatures, like with your brother throwing the rocks. But do you have any like personal experiences, like encounters with folklore creatures?
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine.
There are things on earth that just cannot be explained. And one time, okay, so a little bit of a background. I do tarot readings. I do stuff like that, and then I joined a group I joined a group event, basically. And during that event, they invited a person that can see if you have a bantay or a guardian. And when it was my time, the man told me that I have two bantays, basically, a capre and a duende. So I have a little creature, a little elf-like creature, and a big creature, big, tall creature, horse-like creature, the capre. And if you want to have a close connection with them, apparently, you have to name them. I did find the name of the little one, but I haven't named the big one yet. Now, fast forward, a few months later, when I told my my friend who can see creatures like this or like in astral project and whatever, she told me that apparently these creatures or my bantais are the one who's helping me like with the podcasting. I don't know how, but apparently they do. Now, one time, I had just accepted that okay, they existed in my life. One time I was cleaning my room, and the position of my laptop is behind the chair is the door to the room, right? So at the back of that door, I have like hooks there where I put on my earrings. Now I specifically remember I put 2 earrings there, the ones that I was using because I was cleaning. But when I looked to take them out because I was gonna go out, I was missing one. Now I was thinking, oh, maybe it fell to the ground. Okay, I fell to the ground. I searched underneath the drawers, underneath my bed, nothing. Okay, I probably should sweep the floor. So I did sweep the floor, but nothing. And I'm telling you 100% there was nothing underneath my bed, the drawers, my table, nothing. So I was wondering where the hell it is. And then I remembered my friend say that the little one, the duende specifically, is playful. So I said it out loud. I called his name and asked him, "Did you take my earring?" For some reason, I looked behind me. The door was open that time. I looked behind towards my door, and lo and behold, my other pair of earring was there on the ground, on the floor. It wasn't there. I knew it wasn't there because I swept the floor clean, but it was there. So for me, that actually scared me because that was like a first-hand experience of a creature. That to me means that they really do exist. Like they are here with me. They're my guardians or whatever.
It's such an interesting story because I heard that duendes are like, a lot of people fear them, yet not a lot of them know about the playful side to them.
Yes. I don't know if it's true that they have like different types of duendes by color. I don't know where they got the color scheme from, but apparently they do. So they have like the red duende, black duende, green duende, white duende.
We've heard that the white duende was like the most playful one, or like the most lenient one.
Like nicest one at least.
Yeah, nice to the point where they can actually give you the winning lotto numbers in my memory.
Wow.
And then they would give you this amulet that will give you like good luck or something. Black duendes or red duendes are actually the most feared because they have evil ties with them. They really are mostly for mischief and evil. The green duendes are the ones that children see the most. Apparently, they like children a lot. They like to play with them to the point where some of them lure the children to the forest and they can never be seen again. And also, they fancy human women, apparently. So they would lure them as well. I don't know what the color of my duende is, but that's my story about that.
For our last question, how do you think folklore evolves over time? And in addition to that, how do you think it reflects on societal changes?
I think the fun part of folklore evolving over time is just nowadays people can like pick apart the stories from the past, the folk folklore from our past and think, oh, this is a little bit ridiculous, so I don't think I'll believe this, but I will respect this still. Some of the stories that we have are really not applicable in the present anymore, especially if you're living in a busy part of the country. But if you're living in the rural areas, then that could still be applicable because they still have kind of like the life that they had there. But in modern times, especially if you're moving about every day, you're busy with work, you can just hear people say, oh yeah, I remember that the story like that, this and that, but yeah, it's not applicable right now. I'm kind of working, I'm moving forward. So it evolves in a sense that people still talk about it, but it doesn't matter to them as much as it mattered to us back then. I feel old to say to us back then. But yeah, because I lived with that stories. I lived with those stories. It shaped how I viewed things back then. That's why I don't go out. And nowadays, you can't just say, don't go out at 6 a.m. because blah, 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 blah. No, you don't go out at 6 a.m. because someone might kidnap you. Literal people will kidnap you, but not creature. Not creature. Still the same, but not creature anymore. So it revolves in a way that it's more like a ghost stories now. It's not something that they live by. As well as societal changes, my good example of that is how they view the Chana. Because for me, it has ties with religion too much in how they view women and babies. That if you get aborted, even if it is medically needed, because back then we don't know that, they would make it about religion. Because you would think that the Chanak story is just a cautionary tale for women, but some people, and unfortunately many elders still believe that it's because you've been bad to God, that's why you're punished. And I don't agree with that. Some people weaponize some of the stories that we have just to fit their agenda, unfortunately. And one of that good example is the Chanak. Because apparently if you have an abortion, then it will haunt you back and kill you and whatever. So yeah, they sometimes they used it in their own agenda. But I think nowadays, because people talk about these stuff, women and then babies, people think that yeah, this is a story back then. But I think if we're down to it, unfortunately, if it is really needed to get rid of the baby because the baby is dead inside the mother's womb, then I don't think this Chanak thing will apply. Yeah, that is it for me.